Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit your highly appreciated business. M&A or have an M&A deal go down where you're getting merged or you're acquiring something, selling cryptocurrency, selling a primary home, saving a failed 1031 exchange so you can defer tax and create and preserve more wealth. We're also streaming on expert CRE secrets as well. You can check us out there as well. I'm excited about our next guest. By the way, I'm Brett Swarts. I'm the host and I'm the founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. In each episode, I am joined by some of the best real estate, business, financial, and sometimes M&A and business broker advisors in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspirations. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. Let's face it, in today's economy, there are more people looking to buy and sell businesses than ever before. When a company owner needs to sell their business, they can't just stick a for sale sign in the window. They need assistance of a business broker to locate and vet potential buyers. On the other side, buyers rely on the broker to help facilitate the process of evaluating potential businesses and franchises for sale. And our next guest is the CEO, and I believe perhaps even the founder of Trans World Business Advisors, and he is here to offer so much wisdom for us and talk about why you should sell your company now. Please welcome to the show with me, Andy Cagnetta. Andy, how you doing?
Hey, Brett. How are you?
Hey, I'm better than I deserve. Excited to have you on the show. For our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. Actually, I am not the founder, which is great because I did what a lot of people are doing out there in the world. I came down to Florida looking to buy a business, met with a bunch of business brokers, felt like I was in a used car sales room, ran into Trans World one day, super nice people. They invited me to join the company, and then I bought it. I bought it 2 years into my stint as a salesperson. I grew the company from one office to 10 offices, which we still own and operate in Florida. And then to further expand across the world, we decided to franchise with a partnership with the United Franchise Group. And now we have 200 offices, 700 people selling lots of businesses. That's it in a nutshell.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for clarifying that, because there's a lot going on there, and really cool. So you basically bought a franchise, and you've expanded and own multiple of offices now. Very cool. Before we dive into why you should sell your company now and why we think it's the best business environment, perhaps in the history of selling businesses, I want to take one other step back. I want listeners and myself to get to know you a little bit better. I want you to go back maybe to your, high school, college days. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. Some people call these strengths. Some people call them superpowers. I think they're God-given gifts, and they've been given to us again to help and bless others. So what are those one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help how you help people today?
I think I was given the gift of empathy by my grandfather. He was a wonderful guy. He was a union foreman for a bookbinding shop. So I think I was given that gift. I was also given the gift of an education, Lehigh University, that my parents paid for. So I think that was an incredible gift. And I met some wonderful people there that I actually went into business with later, that helped finance Trans World and take it to the next level. So I've been given many gifts along the way.
Fantastic. I love that. Gift of empathy, the gift of education, the gift of other people helping you to excel in your career along the way. Very cool. Now let's dive right into the topic at hand. What's the number one reason why a listener who has a company, has a business, why should they sell or consider selling right now?
Well, there's a few reasons. I guess the main reason is demand, right? There's more buyer demand for businesses than ever before, and that could be pointed to a few reasons. One of them is the availability of money and how cheap it is. So that is an incredible opportunity right now. And the other thing is that there's just not a lot of inventory out there in the world to sell. And I think that's changing, by the way. I do think baby boomers are coming to the market again. but a lot of people decided to hold on through this pandemic, and I think it created kind of a perfect storm to sell your business.
Yeah, very interesting. So, more demand than ever, buyers wanting to buy, interest rates being lower than ever, so money is cheap to borrow to be able to buy. And then there's inventory kind of got, I guess, stopped or things got delayed during the pandemic because people probably didn't want to like sell their, their baby they've been working for 10, 20, 30 years in a down year. And they say, I'll either pivot, I'll improve it, or I'll just hold on to it. I don't want to sell it at a discount. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, no, that's great. I agree with that. And there's tons of private equity money out there too. So the markets are crazy. People are making money. And so there's available funds to make investments, and companies are making more profits than ever. So the strategic buyers, the M&A buyers, the private equity, the family offices, all this wealth is looking for a home. And when money interest rates are so low, you have two choices. Basically, you got to dump it in to try to build a company in private equity, or you got to, take your chances in the stock market, which people might feel is kind of overinflated at this point.
Excellent. That makes sense. Okay, so um, what's the number two reason why you might consider selling your company right now?
Because the baby boomers, right? So the numbers are just they're not can't be denied that $12 trillion worth of private equity has to change hands. And a lot of those companies out there that need to sell, the baby boomers are well into their 50s at a minimum. At a maximum, they're in their 70s. And those baby boomers are still holding on to their companies. Yes, people are more healthy than they used to be. But a lot of people are looking at this pandemic saying, hey, it's time for me to sell. When that amount of businesses comes to the market, I think for the first time in 25 years, or maybe the second or third time in 25 years, we're going to see it flip from being a seller's market to a buyer's market because there's just going to be too much business on the market. So you want to beat that. You don't want to come in at that time.
Right. You want to sell when it's a seller's market, right? When there's low inventory and you want to be early versus waiting when everyone's trying to sell. It's pretty common sense economics. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, guns and butter, I guess. You just got to, it's supply and demand.
Yep. Excellent. What's the number three reason that if you can think of one right now, why you should consider selling your company right now?
Well, after this pandemic, haven't you looked at your life and said, if I am not truly enjoying what I'm doing, or you are getting to an age where it's time for you to look at life in a different way or spend time with your family? I mean, after this pandemic, shouldn't we all look at ourselves and our lives and say, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this? So I think just introspectively, it may be a great time to sell your business.
I couldn't agree more, right? And that's so true, right? Because one thing I try to pray and remind myself of is how short I have on this planet, right? And I'm 38 now, 5 kids, 12 years of marriage. Oldest is 11, youngest is 3. And man, time feels like it's going faster every day, every week, every month. And it's probably part of the season we're in with our lifestyle stage with the kids 24/7. But it's also part of this ever increasing technology, pandemic, work from home environment. And you're right. You have to ask yourself, am I truly, truly enjoying? And if you're not, perhaps now is a good time to sell. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I mean, and there are alternatives, right? This is the greatest time I've ever seen for people to change careers or maybe get a different education or get into a gig economy or do something that they truly love to do. Again, there's a lot of money out there, and maybe your investments have gotten to the point where you can take that pause in your life. And like you said, my kids are 25 and 26, and they're gone. I mean, I don't have that opportunity to enjoy them on a daily basis anymore. And so, yeah, would I've gone back, maybe worked less? You're right in the thick of it right now. And, all I can say is enjoy it because it does end. Um, and you don't want to look back and saying, oh, I should have done this or that. So
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that encouragement. I appreciate that. Maybe number four. Is there number four? So we talked about there's more demand than ever, right? Inventory is very low. The demographics of the baby boomers, and then the pandemic giving clarity on being introspective on if I'm really enjoying what you're doing. Is there a number four that kind of comes to mind, Andy?
well, it might be a really good time to sell to another company. So I think for the first time, I'm seeing small businesses get smart. I think there's a big education going on out there in the world where you can get information about anything, via podcasts or YouTube or anything like that. So people are learning that they can build their business through acquisition. So I think there are more acquisitive companies, small companies out there uh, on the hunt. And again, SBA financing is a gift that keeps giving since they raised it from $2 million to $5 billion almost a decade ago, and because of the incentives that they had through late in September of this year. They're ending, of course. So I think it's a unique time for other people to borrow money to basically buy businesses.
Excellent. Yeah. So opportunistic time to sell or merge with another company, right? And seeing that's what's going on, as well as SBA financing being very favorable as well. Fantastic. So now let's shift a little bit. And what are some questions that, if someone's considering selling their business, that they should be asking, that they're not asking, that you're like, hey, if I could talk to every, let's call it $1 to $5 million EBITDA, right, company, right, where they sit down with you and they're just so focused on growth, they're not preparing themselves for selling. So what's the one or two questions they should be asking themselves right now?
Well, am I building my company to eventually sell? Am I building value? Like you said, I mean, growth, but sometimes growth isn't a good thing. I mean, you might have a customer concentration issue where you have one customer. It's great, but the margins are small. If that one customer goes away or one supplier goes away, you're in a tough position. So there's nothing wrong with meeting with someone like myself or someone like an advisor saying, hey, what should I be doing over the next 3 years? Because that's really what counts. I mean, when everybody goes to look at a business, the banks are looking 3 years back. They're looking at current financials. That's the other thing. They need to be currently making money and continue to make money. You don't slow down your business and then sell. You have to sell on its way up.
Excellent. Okay, so developing a vision and a plan, and selling with the end in mind, if you will, right? Or preparing to sell with the end in mind. And what should I be doing over the next 3 years? And then meeting with someone like Andy Cagnetta. By the way, you can learn more about Andy Cagnetta at tworld.com. That's tworld.com. There's wisdom in lots of advisors, right? And getting these perspectives and getting these thoughts. And look, and I imagine, Andy, you're doing a lot of this at no cost, no charge, and with the hopes of listing and selling and representation, but maybe not. But would you talk about a little bit how you offer that service and what that looks like?
Yeah, listen, we do it for no cost a lot. In fact, one of my dearest agents who happens to have retired, he used to say we do a lot of public service, and we do. I'm a fan of entrepreneurs. I love to sit down with you. I just sat down with a longtime friend. She just gave me 5 years worth of financials because the last 2 years, of course, are an anomaly, and we have to kind of look back 5 years now to get a real feel for what's happening in 2021, 2022. And she wants to know how best she can exit her business and when she could. And I think I've almost convinced her that she's ready to go now. But that's to be seen in the next few months. But we're more than happy to sit down with people, and they need a good team, right? So, Brett, they need people like you because there are taxes that are going to be involved. Now, that could have been the fifth reason why you want to sell, because you're afraid of what's going to happen with capital gains taxes moving forward. I always try to advise people try not to time the market so much based on taxes, because you're going to pay taxes anyway, but you should have someone in your corner to set it up to make sure that you're not going to pay as much taxes as you think you are.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually, when we talk and advise our clients, there's really two exit plans. There's the capital gains tax and estate tax exit plan, right? And then there's the actual selling and getting with like Andy Cagnetta to actually execute the sale, to get the buyers to compete for your business or your company, and to get the highest price and the best terms. And where people get in trouble, Andy, and maybe you can shed some light on this, is when they try to merge the two all into one. Or I could even maybe liken it to your previous statement about the 3 years in advance, right? They try to show up and be like, okay, now I'm finally ready, Andy. And they're like, well, 3 years ago we could have done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and you're showing up wanting to do this in the next 3 to 6 months. and they're like, oh wow, you're right. Maybe I need to wait another 2 or 3 years and do the things I should have been doing. Likewise, when people sometimes show to us, they're like, hey, I'm selling and we're closing in a week and a half. And I'm like, wow, congratulations. And yeah, my
There's
tax person
nothing we
just
can
said
do.
I got millions of tax. And I'm like, yeah. So can you put the pieces back together? It's like, it's like a car wreck about to happen. I'm like, well, maybe, right? But part of what we do at the Deferred Sales Trust is you got to set these things up prior to a certain
do.
point where the transaction goes too far. It's known as constructive receipt. So what we always say is pre-plan and plan and pre-plan the plan, right? Really make sure that you've got a clear exit plan and then you've got a clear advisor to help you actually sell and list. So any thoughts and wisdom on that, Andy?
Yeah, well, you have to have the right team, right? So, and planning is so much better than, the fire sale of get rid of it now, because that's when we don't have enough time to create a good P&L over the next few years to make sure that any bank or any private equity group would want to fund that business. And then you wind up having to be the bank. And if somebody has to be the bank and carry a lot of seller financing, or they have to do an earnout because they don't have the right customer mix, or they don't have the right books and records, or they played with inventory on their balance sheet. It could be a myriad of reasons why it's a mess. We would love to get in there 2 or 3 years beforehand, sit down with someone like yourself, their CPA, their attorney, their investment advisor, to make sure that their personal side is all set up, ready to go, and they have a plan to move forward, where we can be an integral part when it's our time to jump in. And you hit the nail on the head when you say we're there to get the right buyer, create competition, make sure they get the best price and terms for both, but for everybody, especially the seller, get the best price and terms for their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I think the analogy of like a Roman legion, right? And we all have our shields, Andy, and you got your shield and you got the spear, it comes out of the side of the shield, and the client's in the middle, and we're all lining up. It's their personal CPA. It's Andy as the business broker, M&A advisor. It's their bookkeeper. It's us at Capital Gains Tax Solutions for the capital gains tax deferral piece, and it's the banker, it's the lender, and we're all lining up. And as you build that dream team and get everyone communicating and working together, you can feel really safe and secure in the middle. And so that being said, how much do you feel like capital gains tax? Right, it's 30 to 50% of the gain, depending on what state you live in the depreciation recapture. Most business owners that we're working with, they have zero basis, right? They're a startup from the beginning and they've built it up, or they depreciated over the years pretty much to zero. And to us, it seems like a huge barrier to selling. In fact, if you don't solve for that, most of the business brokers we work with, they don't sell the property or the business, right? So what percentage of the deals do you feel like it's a big hang up?
A lot. I mean, so certainly the people that are thinking about selling and they want to retire and they have enough money to retire, but they really need that equity in their business to come with them. And a lot of times what happens to us is, say they're getting a 5-time multiple for their business, or even on a smaller business, a 3-time multiple, and 40% is chewed up in taxes, or 50% is chewed up in taxes. And they say, wait a second, I'm getting 1 times or 2 times for my business. I'll just stick around for 24 months. Now they do have to pay taxes on that, and they have the risk of that moving forward. But again, they're doing that math in their head, and it's going to get worse. There's no doubt that taxes have to go up. The government's going to have to pay the bills someday. I don't know when, but someday somebody's going to wake up and say, hey, we ought to pay some of these bills, and they're going to have to collect more taxes. And so capital gains will go up.
Yeah, no, I could agree with you more. And I want to kind of hone in on what you just said there. They want the equity to come with them, as opposed to just doing a seller carryback where it's not going with them and it's just being paid in installments. And there's one benefit to that for sure, because you're deferring the capital gains tax and the income tax for perhaps that 2 to 4 year period. But we found as a traditional installment sale is like the old Blockbuster. And the main reason is you're tying all of your hopes on that person to perform, right? In other words, you're not diversifying the collateral. And the last thing that business owners want to do, especially if they're baby boomers, is have to foreclose and take the business back that's perhaps been torn into pieces or ran poorly and it's worth less. And so with the Deferred Sales Trust, they have the ability to sell, still do an installment sale, right? But ask the buyer to come with all the cash, and then they can take the equity with them, meaning it can be diversified into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, investment real estate, start new business ventures, right? They can diversify the collateral. So talk about that piece about, you said equity to come with them. What would that mean for them if they could have the flexibility to do a myriad of things versus just being tied to that old buyer?
Yeah, again, if they mess with the books too often and there's not enough business, I use the example, say the company makes $500,000 a year, but they really were very aggressive on their books. They did some crazy things with cost of goods sold or inventory, and they were able to chew that down to $200,000. Well, there's $300,000 multiplied by three. There's $1 million worth of unbankable business value, let's say, even if someone were to believe it after they unwound everything that they did to their business to try to save on taxes. So what happens to that $1 million is they have to carry the paper. And if you're carrying the paper, then yes, you have all that risk in that one entity and that one buyer's performance. If you're able to get the buyer, they could go out and borrow that money. And by the way, you still have to pay taxes on it. And so if they're able to borrow the money and get that cash at closing, and they have your program in place, obviously they could take that money, put it into the trust and diversify it.
Yeah, diversify and defer all the capital gains tax, right? And
Right.
then just also, they're not short-term notes, meaning typically a lot of these deals are structured 3 to 5 year notes with some
Correct.
kind of earnout, and then or they could even be a early. There's no prepay. Some of the buyers are smart and they go get an SBA loan once they clean up the books for 12 or 24 months, and then they end up paying them. And now you got people calling me going, "Oh my gosh, like it's all coming here in a balloon payment." By the way, we can save that too. We can
Oh,
assign that. It can sign that note to the deferred sales trust, defer the tax, and then the trust can go for as long as you want. You go 10 years. Every 10 years, you can renew for 10 years. You can pass it to your kids, and you can keep it going. But the transformation that I see for people is the peace of mind knowing that if they wanted to start another business, if they wanted to go buy some real estate, if they wanted to go into partnership with their son or daughter or their friend, like they're not having to feel like, because it's an emotional sale as much as it's a financial sale for these business owners, and that they don't have to sleep thinking that I have to go back to where I just built for 20 or 30 years, right? Like it's gone forever. You have the buyer cash them out, go get an
right.
SBA loan, whatever, right? I don't have to finance you. All of my capital is moving forward. It's not having to ever look back again. And it's diversified. So most of it can be liquid and it can go on for as long as you want. And that's the transformational piece that we found for our clients. By the way, you can learn more about that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Part of my story, I was a commercial real estate broker and I was helping people buy and sell using the 1031 exchange. And these are, $1, $3, $5, $10 million properties. And these are basically businesses, right, that are buying real
Yeah,
estate
sure.
and owning that. And I saw all of it. And I saw people lose like half or everything because they didn't sell at the right timing, right? Which is part of what we're talking about here, why you should sell now. If there's even an inclination to sell, and if capital gains tax is holding you back, guess what? Andy can help you sell. I can help you to defer the tax. And it's a great combination when you bring the two together. The next one I want to talk about, which is kind of interesting, we're doing a few really large transactions that have to do with the state tax, Andy. And I feel like this is kind of the elephant in the room. See, the tiger is by the tail you have is the capital gains tax, which you talked about, 30 to 50%
Sure.
of your gain. But the elephant is the 40% of anything above 22 million married, 12 million single. That's set to expire. Those exemptions are set to be good 12 married, 6 single, maybe even 7 married, 3.5 single. They're talking about that. So talk about these very large transactions. I mean, we're working on, we just did for our client, a $25 million client, a $5 million deal, moved it all outside the taxable estate, and that's going to save the estate 40%. So talk about these larger deals that you're working on and how estate tax is a big challenge too.
So the funny thing is, small is not that small anymore. I mean, even the small
Andy's coming
businesses
back
are
here in a
talking
second.
millions. What's that?
Got a little delay. Andy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. You
Maybe I'm
good?
delayed.
No? Hello? You there?
I'm back. Yeah, we had a little commercial break there. It was a little glitch in the matrix there. So, Andy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, I can. So, I don't know if you caught the last part, but we're talking about estate tax. And any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, no, I said what the amazing thing is that there are very few small businesses anymore, right? everything's getting bigger. There's more profits out there. There's inflation. So these businesses, to reach that $12 million or even that $6 million goal, they used to be classified small businesses. Now, everybody, a lot of deals are getting into that big business, and they're going to have to start worrying about this stuff. Um, I wish more people would plan like this, but like you said, it's the fire drill. They've decided today they want to sell their business and they want to sell tomorrow. So the estate tax thing is obviously post transaction for us. So we don't get involved in that a ton, but obviously you do.
Yeah, exactly. And again, just to remind everybody, this needs to be set up prior to the sale of your business. We even like prior to even listing it, right? It would be even cleaner. The last kind of drop dead date is, has the buyer removed all contingencies? And if they have, guess what? It's too late. And those are the worst calls for us to have, because businesses do not qualify for 1031 exchanges anymore, right? So we can't do a 1031 on a business. The Deferred Sales Trust works for S Corps, C Corps, LLCs, partnerships. It can separate partnerships, and it can literally move funds outside the taxable estate in one day without doing any insurance, without doing any gifting. And it's a beautiful thing, but you got to pre-plan and you got to take action. And we work on a no-cost consultation too, just like Andy does too. We don't get paid unless you do the deal, and we'll set up and pre-plan with your team. So you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, Andy, you're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget and make sure to tell yourself to do?
I'll marry my wife.
You would have married her earlier?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that. Second question. What's the number one book you've gifted or recommended the most in the past year?
Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
It's so good, right? It's so much wisdom there. I just keep rereading it. I listened to an audiobook. I couldn't agree with you more. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
I am most curious about the music. I love recording music, so I've been learning how to try to be a musical recording engineer, which is insane.
That's really cool. I like that. Next question. What's your favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
I try to live by doing good deals for good people. I mean, we want to do the right thing in the community. So I do a lot of nonprofit work. So I really believe about giving back.
Love it. Last question. After all your success and with, by the way, tworld.com and business brokerage, helping people, building teams, going global with multiple offices in different countries as well. How do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
I think it's just it was kind of inbred in me. I guess I like to work hard, and I'm very involved in my community as far as giving back. United Way, LifeNet for Families, which is Soup Kitchen, Cleary Center, which is for campus safety, things that have happened in my life that I want to help others. And so I think that keeps me grounded.
Amazing. Andy Cagnetta, I want to thank you for being on the show, and I encourage you to keep using the gifts of being empathetic and also connecting with people in a way which through education and through unlocking ways to sell businesses so they can create and preserve more wealth. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
tworld.com, or my email is simple, ac@tworld.com. Best way to get in touch with me.
Amazing. Thanks, Andy, for being on the show. Also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with capital gains tax and estate tax when it comes to selling highly appreciated businesses, as well as cryptocurrency, primary homes, investment real estate. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to exit your highly appreciated assets, defer the tax, eliminate some estate tax so you can create and preserve more wealth. If you have someone you think this episode could help out, would you please do me a favor? Would you share it? Would you tag them? Would you in a post? would you connect them going by and encourage them to go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com? It could literally change their family tree, and it could change and unlock an ability for them to sell right now and take advantage of these highly, highly appreciated valuations, low interest rates. And any questions on that, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We so appreciate everyone out there, and also streaming on expertcresecrets.com. For those who are listening there as well, we thank you, and we hope